This is a true story that has been witnessed by probably hundreds of people over the years. It happened at Stewart Indian School in Carson City, Nevada. A school founded in the early 1900s, as best that I remember, and closed down my freshman year of high school. The student body was made up of American Indian kids from various areas on the West Coast. The land where the campus was situated is really large, and on this huge area of land is the main school building, also large in 2 stories, a gym, a post office, medical and dental clinic, and many little outlying structures which were the various men's and women's dorms. There were some freestanding homes as well. There was also an auto shop, paint shop, etc. It would have taken a good 10 to 20 minutes to walk the length of this campus from one end to the other. Since the school is so old, the campus is full of large trees and many lonely, deserted walkways. There is more than one spooky story, but this is one I will never forget. Since the guys and gals that attended Stewart Indian School had to move away from home and live in the dorms, there were, of course, great love affairs, and well, sometimes we all know how those can turn out. This story involves a young couple who were in a really intense relationship. They had been dating and depended on each other for just about everything. I'm not sure when this all occurred, since this is a haunting that has gone on for years. Eventually, the girl got pregnant and told her boyfriend. They were both really scared and were afraid to let anyone know, since they would both be sent home, back to their own reservations, and they would be split up, so they just kept quiet about it. After a while, it got to be too much for the boy involved, and he started seeing another girl on campus. Since his girlfriend had thought he would marry her and they would raise the baby together, this new development devastated her. She went into a deep depression, and since she was pregnant, she didn't have much time until all was found out. The girl had a lot to worry about. She only had dated this one person, and to top it off, she had thin skin. Unfortunately, she couldn't face it and hung herself from a rafter in the gym. She was found there by some of the students and faculty who cut her down. A few weeks later, the first sightings of the Peanut Lady started to occur. The reason they call her the Peanut Lady is because her skin was scarred from her acne and had the appearance of a peanut shell. The Peanut Lady is usually seen walking along the cement pathways around campus, but you will only see her if you are alone. She has been seen both during the day and night. Many times, people would see her from behind, her long black hair hanging down, but when she would turn around, she wouldn't have a face. Pretty soon, things took a turn for the worst. People who saw the Peanut Lady started to have misfortunes befall them not long afterwards. People who viewed her ended up having a car accident or getting into some kind of other trouble. After a few years, people started being afraid to venture out after dark or to go alone to the gym or the library for fear of seeing the Peanut Lady. Anyone who ever attended Stewart Indian School has heard the stories, and some report seeing her walking in the dorm hallways or walking around the campus. Some have even reported seeing her hanging from the ceiling in the gym. The only thing they all had in common is right after seeing the Peanut Lady, they all had something bad happen to them, usually involving bodily injury. I personally never saw the Peanut Lady, thank God, but I know those who have. And out of those, one person was shot by accident. He ended up living. Another died in a car crash with her infant daughter. How many more saw her? I don't know, but Stewart Indian School is still there with all the buildings intact. Some of them are being used by the federal government as office space. The high school is used by the local community college. You can find it off Highway 395 South in Carson City. Just don't go there alone. There is a door that separates this world from the next. Some people pass through this door on a regular basis, while others do not even acknowledge its existence. Behind this door are the spooky shadows, bad dreams, ghosts of love lost, and all the things that are slightly out of sync with reality. I've been through this door many times in my life, especially when I was a child. I would like to share with you, the readers of ghost stories, A trilogy of my experience on the other side of this door. My first journey through the door was when I was a very young child. I used to have a reoccurring dream in which an old lady was sitting in an old Victorian-style chair, the ones upholstered in velvet and patterned in ornamental wood carvings. The old lady, in the dream, was eating a bowl of chicken soup. She would stare at me with the most benevolent look between bites. For some reason, the aroma of the chicken soup was very offensive to me, and I would always wake up crying. I've never understood this because chicken soup is one of my favorite foods. It was like viewing my dream in a moment of frozen time. She was eating the bowl of soup just like in the dream. Instantly, I became a goose. My body was covered from head to toe with goosebumps. Of course, I asked my grandmother who the person was in the picture. She replied, "That was your great-grandmother." The next thing she told me never really hit me until I was a few years older. The picture was taken by my mother when she was pregnant with me, and that my great-grandmother had died just a few weeks before I was born. I never knew my great-grandmother in my daily life, but somehow, in my dreams, she made herself known to me. So I asked myself, did I see my great-grandmother from the womb, or was it her way of introducing herself from behind the door? This next story involves my younger brother, Bill, and my grandfather. Bill, my impish little brother, created a new chapter in the haunted legacy of my family. My grandmother and brother were very close. In fact, they were together almost all the time while my grandfather was healthy. I was overwhelmed with jealousy. I could never be a part of their little games and gatherings. My brother could sense my anguish and would taunt and tease me by saying things like, "Papa doesn't like you and he loves me." Oh, how I wanted to beat the shit out of that guy. Fortunately for him, I never did. Then one day, my mother had to take Bill to the doctor, and I was alone with my grandfather. I was very angry at him and wouldn't talk to him. I guess I wanted him to reach out to me, or maybe I was just being the child that I was. Anyway, he finally won me over. He sat me on his knee and gave me a good talking to. He said, "Sonny, I know you think that I don't love you, but there's something I must tell you. I'm very sick, and I'm not going to be around much longer. I want you to know that I love all of my grandchildren the same. The reason I spend so much time with Billy is because he's the baby of the family, and I want him to know and understand who his grandfather was and is." He really didn't have much more to say because, even though I was only 11, I felt like I could sit on the edge of a dime and swing my feet. A few months later, my grandfather passed away. My brother had a hard time accepting my grandfather's death, but as with all healthy children, he finally did. After the family had adjusted to the loss, there was all this talk about a gold watch. Nobody could find my grandfather's gold watch. I was given the third degree. My mother was questioned, and one of my aunts was accused of taking his watch for a keepsake. The only one not questioned was Bill. Then one day, my grandmother was cleaning our room. She picked up a pair of Bill's trousers, and out came the watch. She immediately questioned him about it. All my brother would say was that Papa gave him the watch last week. My grandmother just about beat him to death, but he never would change his story, even until this day. My grandmother was about to have a nervous breakdown because she could not believe Bill. That is, my grandfather had been dead for well over a month. So, how did he get it? It was locked up in their little metal box they had kept important papers and stuff in. Did my grandfather briefly walk through that door to give his little favorite grandson his most prized possession? Not sure. This last story involves my brother and grandfather. Not long after the watch incident, something else happened that truly made me a believer in ghosts. We all were getting ready to eat supper one night, and my brother Bill was playing near the dining room door. I was watching him, not really caring one way or the other of what he was doing. Suddenly, I saw his face literally glow with delight. He opened the door, and the cold January air rushed into the room. My grandmother yelled, "William, close that door now." "I can't, Grandma. Papa is coming up the porch, and I have to let him in." My heart jumped to my throat. I was scared to even look towards the door. Billy was having a tantrum because my mother and grandmother was holding him down. He fought with the valiancy of a Spartan. "I want my papa! I want my papa!" he cried. "I have to let him in. Please let him in." As long as I live, I will never forget that incident. I don't know if it was Bill's loud screaming or the fact that he really did see my grandfather that scared me the most. We all grew up and had our times, but I still wonder, did my dead grandfather open the door just one more time? Because that was the last time we had ever heard from him. Thanks for reading. As I've mentioned in previous posts, this area of the country is remote, has a troubled past and present, and is in general a hotspot for spirit activity. The history of Pine Ridge is loaded with superstition and hauntings. Let's start on the road to Pine Ridge, and I will begin a story that you will never forget. Anyone who grew up in Pine Ridge during the 60s and 70s knows better than to pick up hitchhikers on the way home. One of the most heavily trafficked roads in the area is between Rapid City and Pine Ridge. The trip usually takes about an hour one way, and much of the trip is over large, desolate areas. Oftentimes, as people were on the way back to Pine Ridge, they would spot a solitary hitchhiker trying to catch a ride back to the res. Now, everybody knew that there was a devil who used to try and catch rides. Many people spoke of seeing hitchhikers, but they wouldn't pick them up. But every once in a while, someone would let their guard down and pull over. One evening, a group of friends from Pine Ridge were on their way back from Rapid City. As they drove along the highway, they saw a lone man, a white man standing along the side of the road trying to hitch a ride. Keep in mind, seeing a lone white man hitching a ride towards the reservation is an unusual sight. Curiosity got the better of the friends, and they persuaded the driver to pull over. After they picked him up, they resumed their trip home. Nothing unusual happened, at least nothing more unusual than having a white man in your car. As they drove along, at first, everything was fine. The group kept on joking and laughing and even gave the stranger a beer. But after a few miles, they started to feel uncomfortable. Finally, after they were on the res, the white man asked to be let out of the car. The driver gladly pulled over, and the stranger opened the door and got out. As he walked away, there was one unusual thing about him that they all noticed at once. He had a funny way of walking. As his feet came into view, they understood why. He was walking on little goat feet. This story occurs in a movie theater in Savannah, Georgia, where myself and Patricia worked. This theater was built on the land of an old plantation, so it seems fitting that it should be haunted, and so it is. I was working as a ticket seller and Trisha was working as a projectionist. Each night, when the last movies were started, my shift was basically finished, and so I would usually clock out and go up to the projection booth to keep Trisha company, seeing as how she had to stay until the movies were done. The booth is very long to accommodate 10 projections. Also, it tended to be very dark. We'd mostly sit up there and talk, roleplay, and basically goof around. During these talks, we traded stories of things that happened to us with the resident ghost. For instance, while the movies are showing, there isn't much for a ticket seller to do, and you can't leave your little cubicle filled with lots of money, so I'd read a book or draw. Mind you, nowhere near the buttons that pump out the tickets. Well, my machine would regularly pump out tickets when I was not paying enough attention. Mostly this irritated me because I'd have to get my manager to either void the ticket or gain permission to sell it for the next showings. One of my duties consisted of checking the ladies' room to make sure it was clean and well stocked. The nozzles for the water controls were such that they were timed. You'd push them down and they'd stay on for only so long. Many times, I walked in there while shows were running to find all the sinks running with no one having been in there. One of my scariest experiences was with Theater 9. It was the last theater on the right, directly next to the door leading out to the side parking lot where the employees would park. I was on my way out from work after a long shift with another cashier when we noticed the exit lights were blinking in that theater alone. This meant a fire alarm had gone off, but there would have been a very loud buzzer as well as all the exit signs in every theater blinking and buzzing. The movies were all out and no patrons were left, so myself and the other cashier decided to check this one out. We were kinda spooked, so we poked out our heads in the theater cautiously. The temperature in that theater only had dropped to the point we could see our breath, and the lights to the exit signs were silently blinking away at us. We panicked and ran out, saying to each other that the place could burn if it wanted to. Our manager had to check the security systems the next day, and there was no reason the signs could have done what they did. After that, I never cleaned Theater 9 alone, even though that was the theater that yielded the most lost money for some reason. Trisha told me her own story from the projection booth. At the far end of the booth is a door leading to a fire escape. It cannot be opened from the outside, and there is only one access to the booth. One of our favorite games when we're bored was to sneak upstairs while the projectionist was threading games and scare the bejesus out of her. Trish caught onto this game after many a time of leaping out of her skin, so would pay extra close attention while doing her job. One day while threading movies, she heard the door to the fire escape close, and assuming it was our assistant manager, quickly ran to the door to catch him in the act, as he had 3 flights of metal stairs to run down. When she opened the door with a triumphant grin, no one was anywhere to be seen. Needless to say, she called down to the office, which is in the center of the building, nowhere near the fire escape, and he was in there counting my money drawer for the day where we had been for the past 15 minutes. After that, Trisha took a short break. So those are my movie theater stories. I have some stories from when I worked at a professional dinner theater that I may submit to you at a later date. I've sent in a couple of other stories before, and I've held on to this one until this moment. Why? Because until we recently moved, and the fact that we still lived in the house where this happened, but now I can share it. The house we used to live in here in Pilot Mountain, Mount Pilot to Andy Griffith fans, was a split level. We remodeled it and enclosed the garage to make it a family room. When we did, I moved from the upstairs bedroom to the basement into a little mini apartment. From there, I could hear everything going on in the upstairs bedrooms. I could even tell where the walls dividing the rooms were because no one walked in that area and there were no footsteps. My dad often tried to convince us that something or someone was in the house. We just thought he was trying to scare us and laughed about it. He would say that every morning around 3 a.m. or so, whatever it was would walk down the steps from the upstairs bedrooms, into the kitchen, and out into what was the garage, which is now the family room. He knew this because his favorite sleeping spot was in a recliner that was located in the family room, and he would witness it every morning around 3 a.m. So, I called it the 3 a.m. ghost, laughingly. But, one night, I witnessed it firsthand. It wasn't anywhere near 3 a.m. though. It was about 11 p.m. My dad had a job that forced him to work screwy hours, sometimes late at night, and this was one of them. My mom, my little sister, who was just a baby at the time, and myself were in the family room watching TV. My eyes got so heavy, so I decided to call it a night. I said goodnight to everybody and went to bed. I had no more than crawled under the covers when I heard footsteps pacing upstairs. I assumed it to be Mom putting my sister to bed, but the pacing footsteps continued. Then, I noticed something. The footsteps were coming from right where the wall was. Whatever it was passing from one bedroom to the next by going through the wall. It had to because the only doors in the 2 rooms were the closet doors, and the closets were not connected, and the entrance doors, which were on different walls at 90-degree angles from one another. I jumped from bed, threw on some clothes, and ran up to the family room where Mom sat engrossed in an episode of ER. My sister was on the couch beside her, asleep. I asked Mom if she had been upstairs. She said no. She hadn't moved in 30 minutes or more. So, with my heart pounding like a snare drum, I crept up the steps, still hearing the footsteps, now accompanied by a slow, heavy breathing sound. When I reached the top of the stairs, it stopped, and I never heard it again. My grandfather had died some time before. He was a good Christian man, adored by everyone. His loss hurt us all deeply, but none deeper than my mother. She loved her father more than anything that there ever was on this planet. He had a tendency to breathe slow and heavy. Thus, my mom thoroughly believes that the 3 a.m. ghost was her father, who looked after Mom in life like he did none of his other children, and now he is looking out for her in death. I hope to have some more tales in the coming weeks, and believe me, they're as scary as can be. Please stay tuned, and thank you for my read. When I was about 17, My mom would sometimes drag me along on her religious activities, and it just so happened that on this particular day, she took me to a house blessing where a little girl was having dreams about some doll chasing her. Anyways, we all get there and pray as the priest is blessing the house, going from room to room. Finally, when he's done, we all go outside to the garage, and it's here where the owner of the house brings out some stuff he found in the garage that was left by the previous owners. He pulls out this black leather-bound book and a small bottle made into a doll, and it's when he shows everyone the doll that the little girl screams that it was the same doll that was chasing her in her dreams. At this point, I'm getting a little freaked out, but think that maybe she's a little brat and just wanted to scare everyone. So then, the priest examines the doll in the book, and the book turns out to be the book of satanic rituals of something of the like. Well, they place the book on the sidewalk at the top of the cul-de-sac and try to burn it, and this is where I got scared. Finally, everyone made a circle around the book and started praying while 4 people went and lit one corner of the book, and finally, the fire caught and the book started to burn, but very slowly. In an effort to make the book burn more quickly, the owner of the house poured some gasoline on the book. Yeah, I was standing back at this point, and when the gasoline hit the book, there was a flash of flame rising, and the gas was repelled all around the book, and where the gas fell, small flames rose. This made all the hair on my back of my neck stand on end. The book finally burned after much prayer. Yo, it's Phantom here, and I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry for getting this video out a day later than it should have been. You know, I was just trying to make sure the video was as best it could possibly be, and you guys got the best video experience that you could ever have. It probably wasn't the best experience, but we're gonna pretend like it is by commenting, liking, and subscribing. Sharing if you like the video enough, but you should, because that's what ghosts like to do in their lives. They like to share their videos that they make for you. And Halloween is coming up, so guys, I want to let you know that I'm full in. Whatever the hell that means. But anyway, guys, just wanted to let you guys know that it's going to be my 4K celebration, hopefully, unless I lose like 500 subscribers, but I hope not. But if you guys want me to do a 4K celebration Q&A, I can go ahead and do that. I haven't done that since my 2K, so I think that would be kind of fun to do again. So go back to the 2K question. I'm going to try to answer different questions. So if you have different questions you would like to ask me, comment below and, you know, just leave them in this video and I'll answer them in the 4K video celebration. So also, if you guys have any possible ideas that I could use for future videos, go ahead and comment in the section below because that would be cool. And you guys know that I really appreciate your comments and I try to get through everything. And also, one more thing, I know there's a subscriber submission special that I plan to do sometime soon, and I'm so sorry if you sent me something and I didn't see it or I wasn't able to get to it, because if you send it to my email, I'll probably see it the best way there. So be sure to send in my email and I'll try to look over it and I'll try to get everything together. I'm just trying to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And with that, I'll say something completely stupid as I usually do towards the end of the video. So my laptop looks like an anus. Whatever. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later and see ya. Good night, good morning, and sayonara, and I love you guys, and blah 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 blah.